people who works around migration and anything that has to do with migration. Before I move further, I would love to introduce the colleague or people in the hall. On my far right, I have Mr. Usman George Baji. He works for the IOM as a national program officer, immigration and border governance, and I also have Sidi Bojang, who is a senior investigative officer with NATIB. And on my far left, I have Rosemond Johnson. She is the CEO and founder of the Hope for Future, but also a victim of human trafficking. And on my extreme far left, in the media landscape, is the PRO of the Gambia Immigration Department, Inspector Siman Lo. Gentlemen and women, welcome to the Fatu Network.
Thank you.
Yes, but I've already introduced yourself, but whatever, I could give you at least 30 seconds to actually, take us through, your work, a little bit about your work before we get into the discussion proper. I'll start with my far right.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Aliu, and then thank you to Fatu Network. Okay, my name is Usman George Baji. As he rightly says, I work with IOM as a national program officer focusing on immigration and border governance. Now, we are here as events marking the commemoration of International Migrant Day. Now, just to introduce and then also talk a few things about what we do in the Gambia. IOM's work in the Gambia is focusing on the strategic objective, which is guided by the strategic framework from 2024 to 2028. And then if you look at that, this strategic framework, it is we have three main objectives. That is one, saving lives and protecting people on the move. And then the second one is driving solution to displacement. And then the third one is facilitating pathway for regular migration. So our work is basically centered on these ones. And later I can just elaborate on that.
So we'll move on to the next question. Yes, Mr. Bojang.
Yes, thank you so much. I am very glad to be here. So far, so good. I work with the National Agency Against Trafficking in Persons, that is NATIB, as a senior investigator there. And basically, our mandate there is only to combat cases of human trafficking. It could be sexual exploitation, it could be labor exploitation, or removal of organs. When you talk about trafficking in person, you also have to talk about migration, because it's the movement of people from one place to another. So although they are related, but they are somehow different. This one has to do with exploitation, and the other one has to do with economic or whatsoever. So I am very, very much happy to be part of this program and seeing forward to have a fruitful discussion.
It promises to be a fruitful discussion.
Yes.
And I'll come to the lady here, since she has been smiling all along. Please take us to your work and a little bit about what you do.
My name is Rosemond Johnson, the founder of Hope for the Future, and I'm a migrant returnee and also a survivor. And my work basically in the Gambia since I returned is to see how best I can help empower my fellow migrants in order for them not to see themselves as a failure, but rather somebody that have gone through a journey that will help them to rebuild themselves, shape them to be the future of tomorrow. And also I'm a businesswoman. I do catering service and also snacks.
Well, that's a fair balance. Actually, you will have to pay for it. Yeah. So we'll move on to the only man with the uniform in this studio so far. So I guess he should be able to tell us a little bit. We know you do a lot, especially recently. But take us through.
Thank you so much. I am Inspector Siman Lo, the PR of the Gambia Immigration Department. I think at some point you were discriminating me as being the only guy in uniform. But then the GID is the lead body that works on migration within the Gambia here. Our mandate includes border governance and migration management, and also to provide documents for Gambians and non-Gambians within this country. So in as much as we talk about migration, GID has to be at the heart of that discussion. And we're glad to be here today to also discuss the work we do at the GID's level.
Thank you so much. I'll actually excuse him for those words. I think I've been facing the same as it, so he should also enjoy the show. But now, before I actually come to the discussion, she is the only female in the building. Would want you to take us through, what were your expectations? Because, we've seen a lot of women, young ladies, actually leaving these countries or are hopeful of leaving this country in search of greener pastures. You've already experienced what it means to, to embark on that regular journey. Take us through your expectations and what happened when you returned back.
Okay, I was expecting to make ends meet for myself and my family, because in Africa, when you are the eldest, automatically you become the breadwinner. And so during the political impact, I saw it as an opportunity to go away, because when I lost my job, and I know it will be difficult to feed myself and my family, so I applied for a job. But unfortunately, my expectation was not met, because where I applied for the job and where I found myself were two different places. I was humiliated, my human rights was not respected, I was assaulted in so many occasions. But I thank God, they said once there is life, there is hope. Upon my return to the Gambia, I said within myself, I will not let my past to redirect my future. Rather, I will use my past to shape my future. So I stood upon myself, upon my grounds, and make use of the opportunity that was given to me by IRM, which is the reintegration package, to get myself back on my feet.
Okay, so we will definitely get to that point. At this point, we are looking at some of your life experience and how it differs with the realities today. Because a lot of people still see Europe as paradise, as a greener pasture.
Not all that glitters is gold, I will say. Because when you're here, your freedom counts. If even you don't have what it takes for you to live on, but at least your freedom counts. You can move around the Gambia. But when you're there, you don't have the freedom that you need. You don't have, your human right is not respected. But within the circumference of the Gambia, you can move to any territory without being harassed because you're black, without being harassed because you're a woman, or because you're a man. You should not be in that particular setup. So let's just make use of what we have here, because not all that glitter is gold. Some people might go there, look for the nicest place, take a video, a photo, post it on social media, and we get carried away. We think everything there is made of bed of roses, but that's not true. When you get there, you happen to regret all you did.
Of course, your experiences really matters a lot. We will want you to give us a synopsis. I know it's going to be a little bit, touching, but we would definitely want you to give us a synopsis of some of the challenges you've gone through, a little bit of your experience, at least to deter other young ladies and other young potential men, because every now and then, in fact, the immigration is always, putting up the number of people that they have, the attempts that they have already found. So take us to the little challenges, little experiences that are not recent, but they are bitter. But spit it out for us.
Okay, well, one of my horrible moments that I'm still living on with was when I lost one of my best friends that all of us left the Gambia together with. He was being burned down by the Arab because he didn't allow the Arab people to sleep with his girlfriend. So because of that, the Arab were so agitated. They shoot him with a gun, but somehow what he did, I can't tell. So the bullet cannot penetrate. So the Arab were scared that maybe this is not human. So they had to remove gas oil from their car, burn him down, and we were surrounded. We surround the body while the body was in the middle. After it finished burning, they asked us to throw away the ash and to prison. That's where my horrible moment started. And the other part for me that also is an experience that I am living with was when I was locked down in a dark room because I was so stubborn. I can't comply to whatever they want me to do. So that also is a moment for me that is giving me hard time, like to be in the dark alone. Because when I was locked down, I was being tortured, faced a lot of torment. And the other experience I have was with my leg because I jumped a high fence to escape. And when I landed on the bottle, which entered through my feet, and I have to remove it and still continue the journey. And sometimes if we see the Arab coming towards us, we had no option than to hide in the desert. If you see a dead body, like for me, I would say virtually I did it because I want to survive. Any dead body I see, if the Arabs are coming towards our direction, I will raise it and underneath. But there was a fateful day that I thought my life would end. Because that particular moment, I knew they saw me, but they cannot tell which of the bodies were me. So the only thing they did was they started shooting. When they reached to the exact body where I was lying under, I was just asking God for mercy because I know my life is going to end there. So when they shoot and kick, they saw that it was lifeless. They left. So that was how I was miraculously saved.
Very touching. And I think before you dominate, let's move on to IOM. Of course, we know over the years you've been doing extremely well in terms of reintegration passing and supporting returnees, both facilitating them to return and also supporting them to integrate. Take us to what IOM is doing to making sure that this reintegration support project is actually sustainable and aligns with national priorities.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ali. Now, basically, if you look at listening to the first part, what I said is, like I said, our activities are governed or they are directed by the 3 pillars. Now, from there, we can just go into thematic areas because we are aligning ourselves with our strategic framework, which is 2024-2028. Now, part of it, if you look at the thematic areas, we have return and reintegration. We have the protection and assistance. Now, if you look at that, we also provide some support to the government in the area of immigration and border governance, diaspora engagement, that's also part of it. And then we also do climate action, that is in the area of DRR, that's disaster risk reduction. We also do peace building in the area of climate change. Now, in terms of responding to you, what do we do that aligns with the government strategy? I think now you are taking us back to the support that we provided to both VOTs, that's victims of trafficking, and also to the returnees. As you know that IAM associates itself to voluntary return. That is people that decided to come home. We try to support them from the countries where they are found to the country of origin. That is the country that they are actually from. Now, upon arriving here, the first thing that we do provide them with a support that is a post-arrival support. That's at the airport or any entry point, where we sometimes give them a cash support, depending on the amount, because the amount is like usually from 65 euro. Then we also provide them with NFI, that's non-food items. So these non-food items, it's ranging from different, like with ladies, we can just give a hygiene support materials. Then we also try to support them socially in terms of community reintegration. There you are not just supporting one person, but you are providing support in terms of reintegrating the whole community. That's community approach. But we don't just want to direct our support to only the migrant. How about the other family members that are left behind? How about the other people that live within that community? So this is by also supporting them, which is also in line with the government policy. Now, when you talk about that, we're also trying to support migrants by helping them to build their skills. Because if you look at most of these migrants, sometimes some of them have not gone through a formal education. And then while they were in abroad, they have learned different skills. So what do? Upon returning to the Gambia, we try to link them to TVEC centers. The first thing that we do, we refer them to NACA. So that NACA is the body that provides them with accreditation to say that, okay, this is the skill that you have learned, despite the fact that you don't have certificate from the countries that you have been to, but we can just provide you with a support to say that, okay, the skill that you have learned is equivalent to this particular level, either certificate or diploma. Then from there, we try to link them. If we try to provide them with livelihood support, that is by giving them a reintegration package, and that's where they pick it from. And, yeah.
So far, a lot of these returnees, when they come, most of the time they do complain of not benefiting from the reintegration packages. How do you deal with those kind of, and take us through some of the challenges you have in terms of preparing reintegration packages for returnees.
Okay, thank you so much. Now, when you talk about that's a common thing that we have been hearing, and also we also work towards addressing that. Now, the first thing, like in most cases, these are migrants that we are not returned here through the support of IOM. Because for you to benefit from our support, you must have to be, your return has to be facilitated and supported by IOM. Because like we said, IOM is projectized. So if it's a project that identifies and then support your return towards the Gambia, then the project will continue providing with reintegration. And at times the challenge there is most of these returnees will prefer you giving them cash. Because like, we have like ABC, but people will always prefer to take a shortcut. Look, we said, okay, reintegration. Now, we have people that are dedicated to do that particular work. We call them our case workers, that is social workers, or we have returnees, we have our staff that will support you in terms of developing a business plan. So once you develop a business plan, they will guide you. Then from that business plan, we try to provide you support in kind. But instead, those people will not even want that one. All what they want is like, upon returning back, just report your case to IM. Next minute, you are just called and then giving you money. And IM does it. Because once you give them money, the rest assured that most of those people will use the same money to go back to where they came from. So we felt that there is a need to support them in terms of giving them kind than to give them cash.
So I'll come to Mr. Jame, Bojan, from Native. Yes. Of course, we know Native is newly established not long ago. And if you look at the Gambia itself, there is a lot of cases in terms of, human trafficking, and from your end, both looking at Gambians and non-Gambians, we would want you to actually take us through, as a senior investigator, how do you deal with cases and what are some of the challenges that you have looking at the Gambia, the vulnerability of most of our young ladies?
Okay, thank you so much. I think you asked a very important question, and then I will have to correct you again. Native was in existence for almost since 2011. So but it's not a new office. It's
not a new office, yes. But it's of recent that people actually get to know what there is that exists.
Yes, actually, you are very right on that. If you look at our core mandates, awareness raising is part of it. We do conduct trainings for security personnel. For the past years, we have trained more than 900 security personnel on human trafficking, and also we have trained journalists, and we also train medical practitioners, and then we also train judges. So when you talk about trafficking in person, it's a very challenging institution. It is not easy to investigate trafficking cases. For the past years, we have been receiving so many cases. It has to do with both foreign and then our Gambian nationals. But most of the foreign nationals that we normally receive are most of them are Nigerians. Yes. So the reason why they are in fact brought here is it has to do with commercial sex work. Some are voluntarily coming to do the work here, but 90% of them are being brought here by either their madams. That is the name that they normally call them. That is the traffickers.
Now, before we get to that point, we look at the Gambia, because in the recent years we've seen the Gambia ranked from tier 2 to tier 3. And actually we've seen Gambians paid heavily for the price because of our ranking has fallen due to the number of people that have been trafficked.
Now we are in tier 2.
Yeah, but we just came recently to tier 2, but yes. I had one of my colleagues who were supposed to travel to the US, but yes. because we dropped down to tier 3, yes. it affected Gambians. Now take us through what have Native done so far, with all the number of cases that have been reported, and a lot of people see to it that Native is more reactive than being proactive.
Basically, honestly, I am not aware of that. What I can tell you is that when it comes to our Gambian nationals, it is very difficult for them to come forward to report their cases. I have to be very honest with you. Even if they reported their cases, and when we kickstart the investigation, sometimes you realize that their own family members are involved. So we make it very difficult for them to cooperate with the investigators. Because you come to realize that trafficking is a very serious crime, and when you look at the punishment attached, it is something that these victims wouldn't want any of their family members to face. If you look at the punishment, is 15 years or to life imprisonment. So at times when we receive their cases, you started the investigation. One of them will come to you and say, Mr. Boja, I reported this case, yes, but as we are speaking, my uncle is the one who facilitated my travel, so I wouldn't want to take any legal action against my uncle. Or it was my auntie who facilitated my travel, or it was my best friend. So in that case, what are you going to do as an investigator? You need to respect their decision.
How many times has Native actually brought this to the public attention?
Actually, this, even myself, when I'm on social media, Facebook, TikTok, I see people complaining, but that is not the reality. The reality is that Gambians themselves don't want to come forward to report.
What have Native actually done, in light of that, to making sure that people do not see you as
That's what I'm talking about. Normally, we organize sensitization programs, and then we sensitize people. We inform them about the challenges that we are facing at Native. So to say, if they reported their cases at Native is not taking their cases seriously, that is not true. Because when you look at other cases that we are dealing with, that has to do with the foreign nationals. We have almost, starting from last year up to date, we have almost 13 perpetrators that are being remanded at the Miles prison. They are all foreign nationals. There is no Gambians. Because the difference is the foreign nationals cooperate with the investigators up to the last dot. But Gambians, once they reported their case, sometimes they will even ask you questions. Okay, now, for instance, I want to take legal action against my uncle. What are the benefits there? I am an investigator. That is not my... I am not in position to answer those questions. What I am there for is to investigate, to make sure that you get justice that you deserve. But if your uncle is involved, it was your uncle or your auntie or it was your sister who facilitated your travel, and then you said you don't want to cooperate with the investigation. You said you don't want to take any legal action against that particular person. As investigators, what are you going to do? There is nothing that we can do. Or the only thing we can do is to obtain a withdrawal statement from you and then close the case.
How many withdrawal cases have you had so far? Gambians? Give us a little bit of the statistics.
So far, so good. I wouldn't be in position to say this is the number of cases that we have withdrawn from the Gambians. We have our data officer. So whenever we
will follow up on the data officer. Yeah. I know my PRO actually, the mouth is itching right now. He's already waiting for him to be given the chance. I know why I actually had to leave him behind, because I know when he starts to talk, he will oversaw that. Yes. So the Inspector Law, obviously recently the immigration over the years, let me say from January to date, you've had an intense year, 2025, trying to actually border manage and also intercepting, but equally dealing with possible migrants and those that were intercepted. Now, we want us to take us to some of the challenges you face over the past 11 months coming towards this month. Because I remember there was a time when I went and the numbers were skyrocketing every now and then. And we've seen of recent the number of people leaving from different destinations within this country.
Ali, thank you so much. I think I must first connect with Rosemont's story. As somebody who works with migration matters, when I hear stories of migrants sometimes, it reminds me of the work that I do and the importance of being able to safeguard movement of people outside the country as well. So GID, as I initially mentioned, is responsible of migration management. Through the Immigration Act of 1965, we are to control the Gambian's borders, that is people moving into, within and outside the country. So in as much as we're talking about trafficking or migration, it relates down to the work we do at that level. Now, if you look at the work of the GID over the course of the past 2 years, this year inclusive, you realize that our efforts had gone down to trying to also publicize what we do at the level of border governance. Recently, we had created what we call as a border patrol unit. And the purpose of that unit is to help us streamline our border management capacity, to be able to support our coastal patrol and other engagements. And through that border patrol unit, we are able to actively control people's movement outside this country. Now, what is the challenge we face in that work? It will relate down to the Gambia's geographical location. If you look at the current status, Gambia serves as both a country of transit, and also a country of origin. We have non-Gambians that will use the Gambia as a transit point into migrant smuggling activities. We've also seen Gambians from the Gambia who also want to use this country as a way to live and go to the other countries as well. So it now put us at that funny spot of being we have to be a transit country and also a host of those who are living. So as a result, it now develops a very complex nature of how do you manage this particular situation. So our greatest challenge at that level is not because we lack the human resources, but we lack the capacity to be able to control the borders at some particular point. What capacity are we talking about? Before you're able to safeguard the border, laws must be there to also safeguard your interests as a border official. If those laws are not there, if they are weak enough not to be able to empower you to safeguard your position, it becomes difficult. So our greatest challenge as we speak is being able to have those legislations that will empower our office to be able to control the borders severely. For instance, when we have interceptions of migration cases, and then we have perpetrators involved in those cases, it is usually hard for them to be prosecuted and fined, or let's say being charged with very serious offenses. And that is because the Gambia does not have a law that criminalizes migrant smuggling. Unlike the case of Natip, where we have a very stringent law that controls trafficking. For our case, it's the opposite. Natip, you're talking about 15 years of being imprisoned. In our case, we're talking about less than a year. Or being charged with, let's say, $10. Absolutely, for you to be able to go back scot-free and embark into your daily ventures. So the lack of that law causes a real constraint to the work we do at our level. Another greatest challenge we face is people's level of awareness on migration matters. Rosamond had initially said that not everything that glitters is gold. But you've been seeing how social media had been used of recent to, at some point, brand migration as a very enriching experience. Right? Somebody would travel from this country, enter into Spain in less than a month. You see them in very glassy photos, you think like everything is just diamond. And as a result, you will see those people being on TikTok, talking about their migration journey and trying to influence more people to also join them. So this has now led to a stage where we have Gambians who believe that once spouse is able to reach there, I can also go. And again, those who should be there to safeguard their interests, their mothers, their fathers, their family members around, instead of asking not to go, they serve as that factor that promotes them to go. Because a child of, let's say, for example, 18 years does not have the means to be able to pay for a backway journey. So what happens? The father had to be able to finance it, or the mother had to be a relative. So those families trying to support that initiative becomes a challenge to us as well. And that is why recently we have increased how we engage with the communities. GRE has also have what they call as the community engagement units, where we involve into engaging communities, schools, and authorities to talk about the complex nature of migration. And that has yielded dividend over the course of the past 11 months. You've seen us going around the country, talking to students, talking to villages and alcalos on how can we put our efforts together to be able to mitigate irregular migration. But then, so long we talk about those challenges.
But let me before you move you've talked about the community engagement, and we've not seen, you've made reference of making great dividends, and we've seen recently the trends have actually, tell us what lessons have you drawn from those community engagement, and what are you doing to improve?
We need to understand that the trends are not increasing. The focus of the media on the trend is now increasing. This is a difference. What happened is, if you look at GID over the course of this year, we had conducted several press briefings to talk to you about what we have done. Now compare what we have done over the course of these 11 months to what happened 2 years ago. You can spend a whole year without even a press briefing on migration matters. It does not mean they are not intercepting, but they are not giving you the numbers of what they're intercepting. So we have now changed that direction to let you know that this is what we are doing. So as a result of how we now publicize those activities, people think the trend is going beyond how it was before. Right? If you look at, for instance, last year, over the course of the 12 months, we had about 1,600 plus intercepts, individuals that were intercepted. Right?
We had over
this year, 2,000 is not a number that we give you. That's a number that you have seen from a different source. Right? I've seen reports that in the course of November alone, we had about 2,000 departures. Now, are you able to quantify how many Gambians are involved in that case? How many non-Gambians are there? How many of them pass through the country or they transit in other countries while they're moving? Because a boat can depart from the Gambia and collect migrants in Senegal. So if you quantify a number, you must be able to tell them by aggregation what number had left the country and what number joined the boat when they traveled into the Atlantic Ocean. So it's key we have a factual report on how migration matters are. That's why it's very complex, like he rightly says. So the focus of the media, of how we publicize the events, now has led to people getting to understand what do we do to control the borders, and how do we also try to minimize people leaving the country to move into other areas. So this is the concept.
Of course, there will be lapses in your community sensitization, I would say. But what are some of the lessons you've drawn, and how do you tend to improve on those ones, given the fact that people are still on the move?
There are lapses. And if you observe of recent, our greatest challenge is the area of GNAC. I'm not sure if you've been following activities within GNAC.
Yes.
Right? In GNAC, what we have seen is more of like culturally intertwined situations. Traditions and concepts have also supported what happens in GNAC. And what we have done at our level is engage with the chiefs and the alcalos and talk to them about what should be done in those cases. And now the alcalos and the chiefs are also going to the grassroots, trying to also empower people to understand the concept behind migration. But then, despite all these efforts, we have still been seeing certain boats leaving GNAC and traveling into the Canary Islands. Now, what efforts are we doing? Recently, just this last week, we had our OIC Border Patrol unit that had to go all the way into GNAC. And if you know the history there, you have been hearing people say that a serviceman doesn't have to go to GNAC. But we had seen 2 of our staff that traveled all the way into GNAC to engage with the alcalo there and also talk to the villagers around. And if that effort is being done, it means now they have defied the odds of what people believe about GNAC just because they want to mitigate what happens at the level of that particular area. So those challenges are, people are not unaware, to be honest with you. They are aware of the situation. They know people have died in the migration journey. They know their children have all been imprisoned. But now they bring in their interest more than the interest of those who travel into the backway journey. This morning I read a report that came in from a brother who claims that his brother had traveled to the backway. He was aware before the brother left. Now it is about 7 days since, or 3 weeks since the boy left. They don't even know what exactly or where exactly he is. That is now when they will raise that alarm that their child or their brothers are nowhere to be seen. Now they could have avoided that from the basic stage. You know that there is a risk that if he travels to the backway, he will not be seen again. But now you took a risk for him to go. So once there is that challenge, now you will come back and say, where is GID? Where is the government? Where is IM? Where is nothing? But now before you question us, question yourself first, what have you done? To be able to at least ask your child not to take the backway journey. So those challenges are there. I always tell people that Gambians are aware of the backway journey. But we are deliberate in what we do to support this initiative.
So this your part actually would lead me to Mr. Bojan. Given the fact that GNAC has been a hotspot for migrants, and we have a lot of smugglers actually who are trafficking people. We want to know what is NATIC doing in trying to avert such, and how is your collaboration like with the GID and IOM in terms of averting such? Because at this point it's at hold, but the rest is all that is going to resolve.
I'm not sure if I'll be allowed to intervene before he comes in. There is a thick line between trafficking and smuggling. We have been seeing reports that they have been trafficked, but that is false.
Yes.
What happens in GNAC is not trafficking of individuals. It's smuggling of migrants. And I think sometimes we have to be careful of how we report this kind of cases. To be honest, I know you've read report, that is why you're using the word trafficking, but I don't think we have a case of trafficking in GNAC. It's more of smuggled people that are going into the backway journey. But then of course, I believe we'll be able to react to that particular status.
Yes, thank you so much for that clarification. Just to, if you talk about trafficking, human trafficking, it has to do with the 3 elements of TIP. So that's what you call it, the act, the means, and the purpose. And when also you talk about trafficking, it has to do with exploitation, whether exploitation has been established. So if you look at our core mandate also, we have what we call 4P approach. We have prevention, we have protection, we have partnership, and then we have prosecution. So if you look at our partnership, that is with immigration, IOM, and other NGOs. So in trafficking in persons, when you talk about the act, you must have all the 3 elements in the case of an adult in order to have a trafficking case. So the recruitment must be established. The recruitment is under the act. So when you go to the means, you must have what we call false deception. So when you talk about the purpose, that's where you have the sexual exploitation. So it's just like a business. For example, I brought you from Nigeria to the Gambia to say, I have a salon here or have a restaurant here. That's where I'm going to employ you to work. So upon your arrival here, and then because I am under you, I have to engage you into what? Commercial sex work. That is prostitution against your will. So at the end of the day, whatever proceeds that you made from that street work, all the money will come back to me. So at the end of the day, I am not benefiting from anything. So that is what we call human trafficking. We have so many cases that are reported to NATI. They will tell you, I reported a trafficking case to NATI, but they have not done anything. But at the end of the day, we have professional trained officers at NATI. We have SIS officers there. We have immigration officers there. So we have police officers there. So if a case has to do with trafficking, and then the immigration officers are there who are well versed on migration issues. If they said, we have gone through this case and then we realize that this case has nothing to do with trafficking, what are you going to do? Because you are there, you don't even differentiate between migration and trafficking in passing. So whenever cases are reported at NATIV, you just jump and then with the conclusion that I have reported a case at NATIV, and at the end of the day...
On NATIV, do you have any support means for victims of trafficking? Because we've seen most of our young ladies travel to Dubai, Lebanon, Egypt, and other countries.
Yes, we have support for them. Basically, for the last 1 year, we have repatriated almost 15 or 30 Gambians back from Lebanon, Qatar, and then Oman. But the issue here is, if they are there, and then we facilitate their repatriation back to the Gambia, they will tell you that once I arrive in the Gambia, I'm going to cooperate with the investigation. But the moment that they arrive here, they will refuse. They refuse to come forward to report or to assist the investigators to investigate and then know who were the perpetrators involved in facilitating your travel to Oman.
Now, are there any collaboration with IOM in terms of reintegrating those people? Because most of them are re-traumatized and then they have lost a lot.
Yes, we are partnering with IOM. We are also partnering with Department of Social Welfare. So once we have trafficking victim and then we establish that yes, this person is a trafficking victim, we are partnering with Department of Social Welfare. We have trained social workers at NATIV that are attacked there to give support to this.
What kind of support do you give?
We give them psychosocial support, and to inform you also, before we don't have our own shelter. We depend on the backward shelter. But right now, as I'm talking to you, we have our own shelter at the Broof. Yes. So yes. Okay. Sorry for that.
I'll allow Mr. George Baji to come in terms of trying to what is IOM doing to coordinate some of this reintegration passage to actually between government institutions, civil society organizations, and also other institutions to avoid duplicates. Okay. And we would also want you to chip in a little bit on your partnership with NATIV in terms of reintegration packages for victims of human trafficking.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I will go beyond that. Like Bojan rightly says, in terms of countering human trafficking, there is an approach that we take, and that is called the 4P approach. Like also throw light on what PRO says. Now, if you look at that 4P approach, the first P is prevention. Now, what IOM does is like the first thing that we did was like to raise the awareness at both the central level and also the community level. Because you realize that when you talk about human trafficking, if you ask people, do you know about human trafficking? They say yes. But even look at even at the national level, not many people understand human trafficking and how it is done. Then also at the community level, what do? You have to raise the awareness of people at the grassroots level. Because these are the people that normally push or send their daughters and their brothers, their sons to that type of business. Now, another thing under that prevention is like raising the awareness of people. That's community level too. And then there, what IOM does initially was to train the media houses, because like he rightly says, sometimes if you look at the confusion, where does it come from? The way it is reported. So we try to raise the awareness of the journalists or the media houses for them to understand the difference between trafficking in passing and also irregular migration. A victim of trafficking and a smuggled migrant. So they have to understand this. Once they understand, then they should be having the capacity to report it properly. Then if you look at the second one, if you look at after that, we have the protection. Well, now we have the victims of trafficking.
So going by this might not be of advantage to us, but we will just want you to throw light, because I'm looking at the time. Yes. Okay. Now the partnership and the reintegration packages mostly for BOTs.
Now, if you look at the partnership, like there's the 4P is partnership, IAM has been partnering with NATIP, and then they have supported the capacity of NATIP in different level. Now, ranging from identification to the integration. As he rightly says, IAM provide support in terms of what counseling and psychosocial support. We provide that one to the victims. The victim is here who can even attest to that.
Most of the time they will say they are not interested in that. They are interested in the ñero, as the Spanish would say.
Yes, but this is what I say to you. You see, the problem here, if we don't address it, the key problem in trafficking is easy fix. Because easy fix. You've seen PRO drive in a very fancy vehicle and you also want to drive. So this is it. If you don't want to go through the process, well, if you look at even AB school, you have to go ABC. So you just want to move from A to Z. So you end up landing yourself into trouble. So we call it in counter trafficking, we call it easy fix. So anytime somebody tells you this, no, I don't need this, I need that, not that the person is pushing himself into trouble. So here it's like we do counseling service, and then from there, like if a victim is identified, you're talking about how do we work. Because like as I was coming to this studio, somebody called me at a very high level, said, okay, I have a sister in a particular country, that's in Thailand. And then explain the situation to me. What do we do? I said the first thing that you have to report the case to NATIP. Because whatever NATIP has a database, whatever support you are doing, it has to go through NATIP. The NATIP will reach out to us. But if they don't have a representative in Thailand, we have an office in Thailand. Then we will share the details with them, and also then those people are going to initiate the process from Thailand. So imagine Thailand is Asia. How do we get it? Because IAM has supported a victim who was away from Gambia for 22 years, from Peru, who was trafficked by her Nigerian boyfriend. So from there, it's like they will bring the person, support the person, return the person, trace the family. Because the first thing that you have to trace the family. Normally, we do family tracing, even the returnees, especially if they are minors or they are not enjoying the best of their health. Sometimes when they have mental health issues, we support. And also with the TIP victim. But this is a victim who is not in the Gambia. Does he want the family to know about her situation? You have to find out all that from the victim. If the victim wants the family to know, then you have to conduct what? Family tracing. So that you can reunite her with the family. Then from there, you can do other process in order to support her to come back to the Gambia. If we don't have enough resources to support, we can link her to other service providers. They can provide support in terms of other livelihood assistance.
Okay, so this is going to be my last question because our time is already on our side. We want to know some of the lessons learned from the IOM and how is it shaping your intervention in the Gambia in quickest possible time.
Okay, that is in the area of now. One thing that I want to say is like I want first everybody to understand that migration is not a problem to be solved, but it's a reality to be managed. So once you understand, this is something that you cannot like just stop overnight. These are realities. Now, the first thing that we have increased the level of awareness of the people, both at the national and community level, in terms of identification. Because if you cannot identify some of these things, you cannot stop. Like PRO says, you've seen people who are trying to mobilize resources to go. If you should be in a position to identify, what are they doing? The investigators should also have that capacity to identify. Because like I said, crime relating to trafficking is different from like homicide. But if you look at elements that you are looking in homicide, it's different from those elements that you are looking in trafficking. So IAM was able to conduct capacity building for the people that are at the prosecution level. That we conducted capacity building for the prosecutors, the judges, the magistrates, so that they can be able to proceed with crime relating to human trafficking.
Well, viewers, we still have a few more time, but to remind you, you're watching the Father Network, and it's the Immigration Hour as part of events commemorating World Migration Day. And you have had all the experts here to also talk about some of the issues and challenges that this country is going to. But I'll now move on to the lady here, Rosalind or Rosamond. Please, it's in just a minute. We'll just want you to actually tell us, since you returned, to this country, how has the support helped you, and how have you moved on to be where you are today?
Okay, thank you very much.
And to add on your message to, okay, I'll come back to that.
Okay. Thank you very much for that question. Since I returned, it's been quite challenging because, as a female, the stigma, the discrimination. But I didn't allow that to get into me, because I have this saying that what can't break me can never make me. So I can't allow something that I know can never change my life to weigh me down. I just focus on myself, try to see how best I can make ends meet for myself before thinking of others. And then also with the reintegration package, I was able to stand back on my feet, because to be honest, it was difficult to stand back on my feet. Because imagine you coming back and you know you have the qualification to get a job, but you are being discriminated. Anywhere you go for interview, if you're asked, for 2 years you were not working, what were you up to? And if you tell them, I embarked on this migration journey, you are being stigmatized right there at the interview table. They will tell you, we don't employ migrant returnees, you people are not level-headed. So in that case, I have two options. Either to prove to them that what they're saying is wrong, or to walk away. So I choose walking away, because if I react, whatever they think about migrants will be like, yes, it's true. So I choose to walk away and use my reintegration package, rebrand myself, and become an entrepreneur where I can help myself, help others to gain employment. Rather than me seeking for a job, now I can be a job creator for others. And also work with my peers.
So how many jobs have you created since you came back? Since you said you have got a job?
Well, so far I have been only able to help only 3 migrants.
That's commendable, actually. That's commendable. Now we move to the PRO, actually. You know, for him, talking is not his problem, because he's there to defend his institution. But you know, this is my show. So PRO, it's 2025, and in 2025 we move into 2026 now. And of course, you've made mention of challenges, especially with regards to legal instruments that would, you know, empower you to actually do your work. You know, take us through what is the immigration going to do moving forward in terms of combating irregular migration, and also, you know, community engagement in terms of, you know, minimizing the issue of irregular migration. And what is the immigration looking forward in 2026? Because it's a key year for the country.
Sure.
And you've been complaining on your GID bill for the past 12 months.
So I think that is public knowledge. And then I've initially mentioned that our greatest gap is the legislative framework. And I think so long we keep talking about migration and then the issue of the irregular migration route, it's also important that stakeholders understand that they have a part to play. I always tell people that GID is firm in trying to control the borders, but then there's a need for us to have those laws in place. So one of our greatest lessons this year is that with all the efforts we've put in place, in the absence of a law to safeguard that, it becomes meaningless. And then I think that is why we have to make a clarion call to the government to also take it upon themselves to try to put some efforts towards the immigration bill. It has been lying down there for some time. I understand efforts have been made, but then to me I think it's an underlying challenge that should be given utmost priority. And that is why there is need for us to have that bill to be passed, to be able to support us next year in our operations. Now while we wait for that to be enacted, we are not waiting. Because part of what we have in that bill is to have a very institutionalized border patrol unit. Currently, we have about 100 GID staff being trained at the Gambia Armed Forces Training School. And then they have been trained on several issues. They have been trained on how to use ammunition and arms. They have been trained on map reading, navigation tactics, border patrol, a lot of issues. So our reform effort is ongoing. We are not waiting for the bill to come so we can reform. We have already started the process. That once that bill is passed, we've gone at least 50% close to what we should have in that bill. We've also been trying to engage other partners, because part of our border management capacity includes having very sophisticated information systems. Through the support of IAM, we have the MIRA system at almost all our border crossing points. If at the airport too, we have the security report system. Now what we're also thinking is the bigger picture, okay? We're trying to control the borders. Are we able to have immigration staff that know how to at least do border patrol within the sea? Right now we have recruitment ongoing, and part of what we are doing is to recruit captains, board captains. Because most often when we have we have to pay someone to be able to help us transport those boats back to where we are. So now we have almost 3 to 4 board captains that we are recruiting in our recruitment this year to support our activity for next year. So that is already in a step in the progress. We've also realized that next year is an election year. And border governance becomes very critical at that age. And that is why you can see that the time that we pack our equipment is very timely. Because we understand that by 2020 we have a lot of movements ongoing. And that GID is not sitting to fold its hands and say, no, we have to wait until something pops out. Our leadership believes in being proactive on how we manage people. That is why we have about 400 people we are trying to recruit this year to support our border patrol capacities. So what we look forward to next year is a reduction in the amount of people that use the game as a transit point to go to the back way. Because in our efforts, it's not just about going against migration. We are not against migration. We are against irregular migration. We are against people trying to exploit the country's geographical nature to live and go somewhere else. We are not against non-Gambians coming to the country. We have very loyal and very good non-Gambians into the country. But again, there are few of them that use the country as a place to also engage in other activities. And that is why you have seen this year we had what we call as Operation Fortress Border and Stay Safe, where we had a whole year-round activity, making sure people are documented. And those that are not, if you don't have documents, you are either repatriated back to your country or you have to realize your status. We have seen about 100 non-Gambians, Chinese, Vietnamese, that were really prosecuted by the Brigade Magistrate Court. And we have to take them out of the country. And that effort is still ongoing. When we intercept boats, we realize that you are there, we don't have any documents, we repatriate back to your country. So our efforts are ongoing, and we look forward to be able to also have more proactive means to prevent people from moving irregularly. Because our effort, unlike the case of Nativ, for us is more before they moved. That is where we focus. But once they move now, it has to be a different phase of what should be done at that level. Except if we have returnees coming in towards IM support, and we receive them at the airport and then take care of their needs before they go back to IM support.
Well, I guess time has become an enemy, and I've accommodated you enough for my studio. On a last note, finally, in 30 seconds or 45 seconds, what message would you send out there to our viewers watching?
Once again, and remind the viewers that when it comes to migration, as I said earlier on, it's not a problem to be solved, but it's a reality to be managed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Boyan?
Thank you so very much. For me, what I have to clarify is I want to assure the Gambian public that whenever they reported their cases at Native and the case is identified as human trafficking, I assure them that the case will be treated with due diligence, and then we make sure that
before you go, when is Native actually going to engage the media more to know what some of the work?
But we are definitely
because it's like you people are busy collecting salaries.
We are definitely doing that because we have trained so many media personnel for trafficking. Okay, and also we have the Native Hour every Monday at GRTS from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we also
come and buy Native Hour. No wait, before. Come and buy Native Hour in the Fati network.
I will definitely put that in my recommendation.
GRTS is meant for GRTS.
I understand. Even yesterday you had
and we have more viewers than GRTS. We have more followers. I know you will not go that line.
But what I want to say
is Native actually considering buying an hour here? If not, we are not going to invite Native. Anytime. So Native, if you are watching, we know your director was one time a media person.
Yes,
please come and buy an hour here.
So we also have our free toll line. That is 1123. In case, yeah, 1123. Yes.
Okay, please go ahead. On a final note, what would be your, message? 30 or 45 seconds to, especially to your fellow young ladies out there who are dreaming or thinking of leaving these shores come 2026.
Okay, my final message will be like, not all that glitters is gold. Please let's make use of the freedom we have in our own homeland. The money that we're saving to go there, we can use it to do something meaningful. Not because you didn't travel will make you be a failure or will make you not enjoy what you think you need to enjoy. Everything has to do with you. You have to be yourself. Don't allow people to intimidate you or push you into something that will cost your life.
Don't allow people to intimidate you. That was her final take of the program. Well, if I say 30 seconds, he might go beyond that. So I'm giving you 30 seconds to actually wrap up, your final note.
Well, my conclusive words would be, I would still again call on government to also give a look back on the need to have a law to safeguard migrant smuggling. I will again inform the communities out there that irregular migration becomes a concern to the Gambia's government. And for us to reduce or mitigate it, it has to be a concerted effort collectively. when we fail to put our efforts together and wait for government alone to get the work done, it becomes an impending challenge. To the people of Jinak, I want to remind you again that those people that lost their life in that sea, you have a part towards that as well. So let us put our effort together and at least try to promote a proper migration of those people within this country.
Well, I know he was not going to stick to the 30 seconds I gave him. Well, because that was all we have. You've heard what they said. So migration is not a crime, but let's use the safest way to travel. Together, we can build a progressive nation. For me, to have a wonderful evening. Well, good afternoon.